And we're live. Maybe. I'll wait just a second to make sure this starts playing. Maybe. We'll just sit here and stare at each other awkwardly like the beginning of all of my live streams. Still nothing happening. Oh, screen's changing, and I think we're there. Let's see if I've got audio. Yep. Okay. You don't need to hear me twice, but we are good. Okay, so for tonight, we are just continuing on. Actually, I'm going to do the final details on the roselle. And the cool thing about this is I typically don't record the last details because if it's sped up at all, you can't even see what I'm doing because it's like little dot here, little line here. And even on Patreon, it's kind of the same thing. Even in real time, it's like, okay, nothing's happening. You're moving your hand and nothing. So this will be kind of cool with it being a live stream. So I pulled this off of my drawing board last night to take photos of. So I've got to add some tape back to the drawing. Throughout this, with the paper, what I found, if you didn't see last week's, I'm testing for the first time the newer batch or new batch. It's not supposed to be like new and improved. It's supposed to be the same as it used to be. The Fabriano Artistico Extra White Hot Press. Name is way too long watercolor paper. The problem is they changed something that they're doing with their presses or mills because they're printing, I believe it's that they're printing money for their government or wherever that they're doing this, and it's just not the same as it was. And I can definitely see where people are complaining, but for how I work, I'm still going to be buying this, and I'm still going to recommend it for the techniques that I use. There's tape on my fingers. I think that is still a good product for how I layer, like things that were kind of interesting. You guys know when I use odorless mineral spirits, I will, oh, thanks JPC13 Art, hit record. We'll just go ahead and do that now. When I lost my train of thought completely. Oh, okay, back to it. So when I add a layer, and then I'm going to blend with odorless mineral spirits. When I say a layer, it's technically maybe 3 or 4 layers of colored pencils before I blend with odorless mineral spirits. Let it dry, 3 or 4 more layers, sometimes 5 layers. Blend it out, let it dry. Normally I'll repeat that multiple times. I only had to do it twice per layer. Like these branches are super saturated in color, and I only needed to blend it out, do that process twice versus 3, 4, 5, 6 times sometimes where I had worked on this paper before. So it's almost like when I'm blending out that the pigment is setting on top of the paper more and not absorbing into it as much as it did, if that makes sense. Like when I blend out, it's crazy the way that this pigment is just like, it's super bold right off the bat. So I didn't expect that to happen. So I'm almost going to say I kind of like certain aspects about the new version. I say new because it's not supposed to be new. It's supposed to be the same. But I like certain aspects about this better. Now, whether or not I'm working on the front or the back, I can't say it. There's no writing on this, which I kind of liked. I believe I'm on the front. They're so similar. I've worked on both on the other one. You can't really tell a big difference. And even when I did my tests, I tested both sides and had pretty much the same results on either. Go ahead and tape some of this down. Now the drawback for me on this, which might be solved by using their 300-pound watercolor paper, same type 300 versus this one being 140, is that it didn't hold its shape as well as it used to. Like before, if I added odorless mineral spirits or water, like it would always dry 100%. Wow, that didn't come out right at all. 100% flat. This didn't. It's close. It's not terrible. Like if you guys remember, I did the review on the, what was it? Was it Strathmore? Made their watercolor paper, and it was, or not watercolor, their colored pencil paper, and it was absolutely horrible. It's not like that, but I did notice a slight difference in when I'd work on the bird. Like, I don't know if you can see how it's kind of moving just a bit when I add pressure there, which I'm not in love with, not gonna lie. Not a huge fan of that. And there were, when I was doing tiny details, it was extra annoying because the paper would move. Like every single pencil stroke, there's that little bit of a move. Not huge, not enough that I wouldn't use it, but still a little irritating, if that makes sense. So yeah, there's like here, you can kind of, little bit of moving. Not over the top, not as bad. Where is my glassine? Oh, I lost my glassine. Where the heck did I put it? Huh. I moved everything last night when I was taking photos, and well then. Okay, maybe we'll go without it tonight. Where did I put it? Like, I know I wouldn't have thrown it out. I was still using it. Seriously? I lose everything. My husband hates when I clean. Like, I'm not allowed to clean his room at all because I lose everything. Like, I don't throw it out, well, unless it's trash, but I can't tell you where I put anything ever. Huh. One second. Let's see if I can figure out where I put that. It's got to be in here somewhere. Weird. Glassine, if you're wondering what the heck I'm talking about, is the stuff I put under my hand so that I'm not smudging the work. I'm not doing, actually, my sweater can work as that tonight because this is clean. We'll just let the sweater touch because that's really odd. I don't think I would have thrown it out. I mean, my studio's fairly organized, mostly. Huh. Anyway, I lose everything I touch. It's a problem. So moving on. But the paper overall for this technique I liked. Now, that said, pretty sure I'm not even going to bother using this for Inktense or watercolor or anything where I'm going to use a lot of water for two reasons. One, and I'll go over this when I do the full video of this that'll be on YouTube that's not a live stream. But the word was leaving my head. It's sitting right here and I can't remember what it's called. The masking fluid left a bit of a stain. The paper felt wrong. I'm not going to use that on this paper. And when I work in Inktense, I need the masking fluid. I mean, I can use the Frisket like I used for last week for the airbrushing, but when you're using the Inktense and you're applying so much water with a brush, it'll slide under that tape. So you really want masking fluid in that case, and this paper just didn't handle it. And don't know if that's going to be a difference on the 300 pounds, so I'm going to have to order some of that too. But yeah, Joseph is right. He said glassine is so slippery it slid away. You know what? I bet you it did too. I know he's joking, but I bet it slid behind my table. I don't know. I need to just give it up. I need to stop worrying about it. But yeah, so that is going to be a negative. I'm going to have to find an alternative. And next week, just a little preview, well, not preview, but next week I'm going to be doing a watercolor. I'm working on watercolor. I don't know if it will be for the live stream. I'm not sure if I'll be done with it by then. It may be something else, but I designed a layout for a lionfish, and I'm going to use my Derwent watercolor pencils. I've never done a video using those, which I have no good reason for it. I just haven't. So we will be doing that next week, and I haven't figured out which paper I'm going to use. I have a cold press watercolor paper I kind of like. The backside is really smooth, by Canson. I may use that. I have my old Fabriano that I know is safe. I've got some of another type of watercolor from Fabriano I might try too. So I can't decide yet what paper to use, but it will definitely, without a doubt, will not be this, because I just don't think this is good, which is ridiculous. It's watercolor paper. It should be perfect for watercolor. It's not. So moving on, but I do really still like it for colored pencil. Even when I wasn't blending with odorless mineral spirits, I felt like I don't know, just it blends well. Like there are so many areas where I just really like the results I was getting. Now, I did notice a little bit of a difference. There are more like little dots in the paper. The finish, or not finish, I don't know, I guess the tooth of the paper looks a little different than it did before too. But the end result, I'm pretty happy with. Okay, let's see. Read some of your comments there. It's in the freezer. Knowing me, it honestly could be. Like, I put stuff in the stupidest of places. I could just grab it. Here. I'll just grab a new sheet and stop. That's not glassine. Okay, that's apparently not where I put it either. I have a new one. That is not the one I want. That is so... Found it! It's under a bunch of stuff. Ha! Sooner or later. There we go. That was a stupid place to store it. Whatever, I found it. I moved stuff out of the way when I was taking photos last night. Okay, so as we get started, let's see. This paper, Kim, is the Fabriano Artistico Extra White Hot Press 140-pound watercolor paper. Let's see. Jenny said she bought Prismacolor pencil last year and haven't finished one drawing yet. I just want to know how you stay patient when using them. I don't, because they kept breaking and they make me swear a lot. So I don't use Prismacolor anymore. I used to for years. That was the only thing that made me that I would get frustrated with, is how badly, like, the breakage. Any other medium that I work in, like acrylic paint, oil paint, They just do what they're supposed to do. I never worry about like, oh, I can't sharpen my pencil. It's just going to break because I looked at it wrong. So I don't know. That was kind of my thing. So yeah, I definitely had a lot of frustration with those, but it was just because of the breakage, like the actual being slow. That never really bothered me. It's kind of relaxing. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to start on this branch here. The bird's not completely finished. I've got some details I'm going to do all over this piece tonight. So we'll just be working on that while we chat. Let's see. Julie said, what set of good but cheap oil colored pencils would you recommend for a beginner? The idea is to use powder blender because OMS makes me dizzy. My favorite, like my one that I grab more than anything else are my Faber-Castell polychromos. Those are my favorites. Here's the thing, good and cheap, those don't go hand in hand when it comes to art supplies. Unless you're talking about graphite. I think you can get really good graphite pencils for cheap. There's certain things like that. But I would say, I would rather you spend the money to, or like what I would recommend to a student, spend the money to get something the higher quality. Just get fewer colors. Get a handful. Maybe you got 12 colors, 20 colors. Do that instead of 120 of crappy pencils just because you got more of them. You're better off with fewer that work better. I have so many pencils I've used for this piece that they're everywhere. And just to let everyone know, I will not be listing out the colors I used. You can pretty much assume I used almost everything of Luminance, Polychromos, and Derwent Pro Color of the Light Fast of those. Oh, where is my, and Derwent Drawing. There should be a white Derwent Drawing pencil around here somewhere, and I keep losing it. I lost it so many times last night. It's amazing I ever get any work done, given how much time I spend looking for the stuff that I misplaced or knocked on the floor and then lost. I should have one hiding down here. We'll just grab a new one. Okay. Yeah, that's what I want. I got this sharpener. This one is a weird shaped. I don't even know where I got this, if I bought it online somewhere or I was going through my pencil drawer looking for something else because, you know, me and misplacing stuff, and I came across this. Let's see how it works on these. Seems decent. I like metal sharpness. Oh, there we go. It's a M&R, made in Germany. I don't know. It seems kind of cool. First time of using it, I kind of like it. Let's see. How do I use brush and pencil titanium white powder? Do you mix the stuff? Mix it with the stuff that looks like nail polish top coat. Exactly. That is exactly what I do. And I have a video here on YouTube. You can look at how to get fine lines or get white lines in colored pencil and Lachri. Make sure you include the Lachri in the search. I think on my front page of YouTube I have that video. But I'll show you exactly how I mix it and how I use that. So what I'm doing right now is using the Derwent Drawing Chinese White because it's a bit more opaque, just to get some of this a bit brighter on this branch. Now, I don't have to copy this reference photo exactly. And those of you over on Patreon, I just uploaded this for you last night, so you guys have this photo if you want to draw this bird too. But I'm not copying anything exactly. I just need kind of close, like, okay, there's a light area here, there's a dark area here. And again, with a color, that doesn't even have to be exact. I don't really care. Close is honestly good enough. We get so worked up about wanting everything to be perfect, and it doesn't matter. I mean, you go for close, but there's certain things that don't matter. I don't need to sit and count how many feathers are on his chest. Close is good enough. Oops, scroll too far. Do I like the Pro Color, Kim? Yes, I love the Pro Color. The thing that I don't like is only a little bit more than half are light fast. The other half I'm keeping for like if I'm working with Inktense, or I'll probably play with them on I may use the watercolor piece I'm going to do next week. I might use those on that one because I'm not going to sell it, so it doesn't matter if they're light fast to me. So I can use all the pencils in the set, but like the half that are light fast that I have pulled out, I love. They're performance-wise, definitely one of my favorite colored pencils. Love, love them. Let's see. Art by Dana wants to know if those drawers still work best for you. Yes, I've been using these for years, and I really, really love them. They're so convenient. One of the things I like too, I don't know if you can see this well, I can take my, actually let's grab one that's a little bit more full. I can take my pencils when I want to see if I'm out of certain colers. I'm going to throw stuff on the floor. But I can take them like this and see which ones are short. And then when I go to place my order for new pencils, because I buy mine online, I can see which ones are short really easily. When I used to keep them loose in a drawer or like or in a cup or something like that, it's harder for me to tell. This makes it so easy to see. I just, you know, let them drop to the bottom to see which ones are short and which ones need to be replaced. So yeah, these drawers have been my favorite way to store them. Let's see. Nick said, the older I get, I find myself spending more time looking for the thing I just had. Yeah. I don't know if it's so much an age thing or just, because I've always done that, like, badly. Gail Perkins says she bought the same 2 wooden boxes like me from Jerry's Artorama. Loved it, but it smelled weird. Aired out and replaced the foam with paper, which helped. Do I have the foam in mine? I do still have the foam in mine. Yeah, they had it. I do kind of remember there being an odd smell, but it faded quickly. That doesn't smell like anything to me now. Okay. I mean, it's an art studio, so I have some odd art supply smells. I smell pencils. Vaguely. Okay, let's sharpen a few more of these. I've got to start. What I'm focusing on right now, it's not so much my color. My color's there. What I want to focus on when I get to these final details are, well, details, but my values. This is the thing that will make all the difference in the world to your work. You want to make sure your darks are dark enough, your lights are light enough. And I like to bump it up sometimes, just even a little bit more. So this isn't, and those of you who have that reference photo, you see it's not exactly the same. I just want it to be somewhat close, but then I can hype up some of these, just make that a bit more. And anywhere where I'm not light enough, what I'll do, if I can't get it light enough with my pencils, I just use my Touch Up Texture titanium white mixture, and I can come through and lighten it up and then put a color on top of it. So even though I'm using white for that, it doesn't have to stay white. I want it to be a little bit sketchy. Get some variation in there because I think it looks better. Like on the reference photo, this comes all the way out, or it's a straight line. We'll get that up there a little bit. What kind of powder, can I use with my colored pencils to blend them? Powder blender. You can get it from brushandpencil.com, and then there are other places around the country you can get them. I usually, if you look at one of my videos where I've used it, Powder Blender's the only one. It's not the same as anything else. I've read where people are like, oh, I tried cornstarch and it kind of worked. It's not the same. So not the same. You want a Powder Blender is for colored pencils. It's archival, and it does not work the same. I always laugh at some of the things that we try. Like, there's certain things around, like household items I will try for, like, let's say I'm blending pencil. There were times I used toilet paper to blend pencil when I was younger. I used to use those all the time when I didn't have blending stumps. I mean, there are household items I use for some things, but then when it comes to the actual, like, this can affect the archival quality of your painting, then you need to think more about that. Sarah Makes Art said she just got a dual action airbrush. Oh, congratulations. She's looking forward to being able to use it to make blurry backgrounds like you're showing. Yeah, it's so much fun. I actually want to do a lot more. Like, I want to do a little bit more detailed. I haven't done a kind of detailed blurry background in forever with airbrush, so I want to do one of those soon. I need to sharpen this. All my pencils I should have sharpened before I started tonight. I think half the live stream is going to be me sharpening stuff. Oh, it's Valerie's anniversary tonight. She's not here tonight, but yay! Everybody wish her happy Valentine's, happy anniversary. Broken tip. Sharpened it too much. Sharpened it too much, pushed a little too hard. So I want to get some texture in here because right now everything's very flat on these branches. Another thing that you want to watch when you're drawing branches, don't look at it and go, okay, highlight on this side of the branch, shadow on this side, done. It makes it look flat. Look at the photo. I mean, even on mine, I've got a highlight basically coming through, or it's not just highlight. Part of mine is that it's the bark having been stripped away by the bird. But this one, it doesn't necessarily make sense as always highlight here, always shadow here, because as I move down, I've got highlight, I don't think you can see this far down, but I mean the highlights on the opposite side as here, because of the way that the light bounces around through the canopy of trees. So you really don't assume, and that was a mistake I made so much when I was younger, is thinking, okay, highlight one side, shadow the other. That doesn't look natural. And I remember seeing things by an artist that, and thinking, how his trees, his light, it looks so realistic. And you go back to if I knew what color it's not the color. It's never the color. It's the values. Where did you put your highlights? Where did you put your shadows? And getting that variation, paying attention to that, like, okay, highlight here, but then it's over here. That doesn't make sense. It doesn't matter. That's what's on my reference photo. Apparently it's correct because of the way the light bounced around, and that will make it look more realistic than just trying to go, this side's highlighted, this side's shadowed. Don't let your brain try to take over. Let your eyes look at what you see and copy that. Your brain will steer you all kinds of wrong. Clarence, make sure I read that right. This said, it could be worse. You could be looking for the thing you already had in your hands. Had it happen to me numerous times. Yeah, my cell phone. The amount of times I've walked around with my phone in my hands, yet couldn't find it anywhere. I scare myself sometimes. So the reason that I'm choosing different colors, you'll see me use a lot of the luminance tonight because those are going to be my most opaque colors, my luminance and my Derwent drawing. Derwent drawing is harder because they're such a soft lead, they aren't as good for fine detail. So, you know, breaking. The polychromos I'll switch to mostly when I want teeny tiny detail but don't need the opacity. Marilyn, this is a Rosella. So let's go ahead and see how this will show up over the dark where I want to put little knots. I don't need it to be super bright. That pencil was too sharp. But it shows up enough. And then if I want it to show up more, I can just come on top of it later with my touch-up texture titanium white, which I know I'm going to for some of the highlights on this branch. When you get to the end, make sure you're spending a lot of, like, back away from it. Make weird faces at your artwork, but back away to see if there are anything that's just kind of standing out, like, ooh, that my eye's being drawn to a weird position, and I don't really want my eye being drawn there. That's the thing to watch. The other thing is, the stuff that you're seeing me do tonight, most of this I'm not even going to need to use odorless mineral spirits for, because that paper, the way that it's blending is really, really not, like, I'm seriously was so disappointed when I heard that this paper made changes, thinking, oh, it's not going to work, now I have to find something else. It's actually, in certain ways, like I said before, it really does seem better in a lot of ways. For me, better is if I can get the same results faster, that is better. And I think that I am getting the same results, or very, very close to it. I need a lighter tan color. Let's see if that'll work. I think this one might be a little too green. Yeah, it works okay. See what I mean? Color. Doesn't matter. It's like, close enough, that'll work. Every time somebody contacts me insisting that I tell them the colors, it's like, I know you've not been listening to me. You're just making the assumption you need that info, because if you've listened to me at all, like, it's something that I bring up so often lately because I'm asked so often about it. It's like, I'm always telling you guys, don't worry about the color. So one of the things that's kind of weird on these branches is it shifts from really warm, rich, almost gold colors to cool blues all over the place. Very different than what you would expect. You would think it would all kind of be the same. It's very much not. So let's darken up some of this. I'm also finding I can be pretty sloppy with how I'm making my pencil strokes, and it still blends out really smooth. It's weird. Now, I don't know how you would know if you, like, when you order, I have no way of knowing for certain. Like, I couldn't look at the package and say, oh, that's the new batch or that's the old batch. The only reason that I know this is the new is I've used the old enough and I can see some serious differences. And it was on back order for the last year almost. So that is how I know this one is different. But I can't, like, tell you for sure if you're thinking, I want to try the new batch. I don't know how to know which you're going to get. Honestly, either way, they're good. So, and Unless you're looking for like watercolor Inktense, then probably not so much. Oh my gosh, my nose is driving me crazy itching tonight. Things are finally starting to bloom outside. I was so excited the other day. Well, it's freezing here right now, but the other day I went outside on Monday. My jaw dropped when I saw little buds coming out on one of the trees. So excited. I love spring. JVC13R said, I was just searching for my phone for like 5 minutes, then realized I'm watching you on my phone. And now he is actually young too. He can't even claim it's an age thing. That's funny. Let's see. Lady Marigold said, since on sanded paper you can easily put white and light colors on dark, would you ever switch to sanded paper as your go-to paper? If not, why? And the cost? No, the cost wouldn't concern me. I don't even think it would be that much, like, that big of a difference. I don't know. I haven't figured it out. I mean, it'd be, in a case like this where you're spending as long as you do on colored pencil, I want to use what supplies work best, not really based on this one's cheaper. I think it's a weird thing to cheap out and save like $2 or whatever it might be. But no, I don't. Sanded paper, there are things I like. I love it because of powder blender, but like on its own. I don't know if we're still streaming, honestly, after that break. My power just went out. And I'm trying to see. It looks like I've got some coming back. Give me just a second before we get back into this. Okay, looks like you said we're back. Okay. Cool. Yeah, we've had, which is weird. I never understand what causes power to go out because we've been having massive rain, massive thunderstorms, and it's not raining right now, and now the power goes out. But we've had the power go out a couple of times the last couple of days, so yeah, it's been interesting, and my dogs are not thrilled with this weather. Okay, good. Sorry, that wasn't you guys. That was my power went completely out. Luckily, if you guys don't have one, a backup power bank generator. I have one on my main computer, so luckily I didn't have to start all of that over again. And then the laptop, of course, has a backup power, so that helped. I just had to wait for internet to come back on. And it just flickered. It came on quick, but it caused my router apparently had to be reset. That's a hot mess. Okay. So the sandpaper question was cut off. Sanded paper isn't going to work great for airbrushing. You could use it, but airbrush looks best, in my opinion, on super, super smooth surfaces. So even canvas, even smooth canvas at times, it has a little more tooth than I like. That's why I like to use the watercolor canvas boards because they're so smooth. But I put all my pencils down when I went to plug everything in. I don't even remember what I had in my hand. I think it was this batch. I have piles of different colors. Like here's my blue pile. Here's the color I was using on the tail. They're spread all over. But I don't know that. I don't know. There's just something about smooth paper when I'm not working with powder blender. I like the feel of this, and that's just personal preference. It's not one's better than the other. It's how it. I don't see myself doing just sanded paper. I know of other people who do it and love it. It's just not really mine. Yeah, Kim said I need to hook my router, and definitely I probably should get one. I mean, it can't be in here. It would have to have another one of those power banks. I probably should put one out there. That is actually a really good suggestion. I don't know why I didn't think of it earlier, but I'm going to have to do that. Or, well, let's rephrase that. I'm going to get my husband to do it for me. I bought those power banks because B&H Photo had a sale. And I was like, oh, that could be handy. Yeah, it's handier than I thought it would be. I actually really, really like those. So if I'm working on something like, let's say I'm working in Photoshop, like working on a digital painting, something power goes out or whatever, I have time to save it really quick before I lose all of the power. It doesn't keep it on long, but it's enough to save stuff. Okay, that is going to need touch-up texture powder blender for most of that. I can leave that alone for now. Actually, let's pull a little bit of gray. I'm going to get a bluish gray or a cool gray. So I'm going to go with luminance just because it's more opaque. It'll show up over the dark. And I don't want this to stand out a lot. So even though the pencil is actually technically pretty light, the marks that I'm making going over the black aren't that bright. And that's perfect for what I want here. So let's go ahead and move over. So I'm going to move my paper. What I do for the glassine, I just put a couple of pieces of masking tape on it. I just tape it to the top of my board. We asked, how do I regulate the amount of OMS on my brush when blending? Also, what type of brush do you use for it? I use mostly, my favorite brush is a Taklon Bristled Filbert. This one's by Low Cornell. Most of my brushes, though, are actually just generics. They don't need to, you just need a Taklon Bristled brush. Those are my favorite. And this one is a number 8. So it's kind of a mid-size brush, not super tiny, not huge. But that is... that's the brush that I use. How much I use? Practice. Honestly, you have to practice and get a feel for how much you need for what you're trying to do. Now, I do keep an old t-shirt, or in this case, an old, well, I guess it's kind of old. Been using it for a while. Piece of Viva paper towel, because it's very cloth-like. Regular paper towels won't do it for you. Viva or old t-shirt. Those are pretty much your option, your main, well, at least for paper towels, Viva's the only one I recommend. But I can dab the paintbrush on it, just get it to touch just a teeny tiny bit, to soak some of it up. And you've got to practice to figure out how much you need for the effect that you're trying to get. There's no like formula I can give you other than that. Let's see. How do you think this paper would handle graphite? I think it'll be perfect for graphite. That was kind of my backup plan. If I bought this and hated it for colored pencil, I could at least use it for graphite, and then I didn't feel like I was wasting anything. But luckily, it turns out it works just fine for this. But yeah, I think it'll be perfectly fine for graphite. Graphite's not, to me, is not as picky, or I'm not as picky with what paper I use for graphite. Seriously, I can't find any colors I want right now. They're just, oh, there it is. Found it. But no, graphite wouldn't be a problem. The problem seems to be with wet media at this point. Whoa. I didn't notice the sharpener has different points it could do. Wet media seems to be the real issue at this point with this paper. Just, it's like, it's not holding its shape like it used to. That's annoying to me. So with graphite, you don't really have to worry about that. I'm probably going to have to use a little bit of titanium white touch-up texture to get that branch to stand out as much as I need it to. I'm going to darken and exit. So one of the things I'm having happen here, see how the branch is just kind of, it's all about the same value. There's no real difference. So I've got to do two things. I need to lighten the branch. I need to darken the feathers behind it to push that forward. It's not like, oh, I don't know what colors to use to make that look good. No, it's the values. I've got to get the values right there. KM Himes wants to start airbrushing backgrounds. Is there a reasonable compressor? I can't give you a whole lot of advice on compressors. I can tell you what works for me, and that's the one that I have linked in all, like my supply list on my website and such. It's been wonderful. I've had it for, well, gosh, when did I get that? Like 1999, I think. 98. I've had it a long time, and I've had to change a couple of hoses out on it, but it's been perfect. So for me, reasonable is something that lasted long term, but that's the only one I've ever used, so I can't tell you what other ones are good. You can talk to other airbrush artists and see what they like, but I can say for certain that one's really been good. So one of the things I'm going to do, I have this little block of sandpaper. My pencil's pretty sharp, not sharp enough for what I want, so I'm going to sharpen it by rolling it back and forth on my sandpaper just to get a finer point without having to resharpen the whole pencil. This will let my pencils last a little bit longer because I can get that point back. What paper, Phyllis wants to know what paper I think I'll use with Inktense. Now, I don't know. I mean, in the meantime, if I had something I wanted to do right now and I knew I wanted it to be really good and I didn't want to worry about picking a new paper or testing stuff out, I could use my old batch of Fabriano, which is probably what I'll do. I think I'm going to keep this batch and I'll keep using it with colored pencil, but I will probably save the old stuff so I can keep reusing that as needed. But I don't know yet. I've got a few different brands I'm going to try, but I am not certain, unfortunately. I also have some here Canson watercolor paper. It's a cold press, but it's actually fairly smooth, especially on the back. I kind of want to try that out too and see how it goes. See, I'm just picking little areas where I'm like, okay, I need more color saturation here, need a little bit more there. Now, one of the things that on this bird that I'm doing a lot, I'm just switching back and forth between warmer and cooler blues. Like this one is kind of a blue-green. Well, it's very green. I think it actually is listed as a green, malachite green. But the kind of teal turquoise colors, I'm switching back and forth between those and colors that are closer to a little bit cooler. This one's actually called cobalt blue greenish. So this one, I guess technically they think is warm. It's cooler than this one. So that's largely what I'm doing on a lot of these feathers. It's not that I have to have the right color. I'm just paying attention. Okay, is it more of a warm color? Is it more of a cool color? And going by that. And I need to clean edges. See how this edge here is kind of fuzzy? That's the sort of thing when I do final details that I'm going to focus more on, making sure everything's nice and crisp that should be. What Photoshop do I use? Photoshop, it's all the same now. It's always the updated version because you don't buy the program, you buy it like a subscription. So they update it all the time, whatever the new one is. It's not like it used to be. Ever tried arches? Not yet, but I'm going to. That is one of the first ones I'm going to be buying. Sorry, if this is a repeat, did you answer about the lamp? No, because I'm not sure what you're asking. So I'm going to go with I did not. Ask a question again, because I'm not sure what the question was. It probably got lost when the power went out. I'm sorry. How do I feel about light fast oil pencils from Derwent, perhaps a luminance competitor? Well, that wouldn't be a luminance competitor. That would be a polychromos competitor. And I haven't tried them yet, but I'm excited to. Like, I'm extremely hopeful for them, given how much I love the Pro Color. So, I mean, initially, you guys know I don't like their color soft. So I didn't, I was like, it's not going to be that good. It's Derwent. I didn't like their colored pencils. But their Pro Color was so nice to work in. I'm really excited to see what the new light fast ones are going to be, but those are going to be an oil base. So that's going to be more of a, oh, I don't like that line I just did. That's going to be more of a polychromos competitor. Ooh, that needs to be sharpened. Do I have another one? Nope. Okay, let's get rid of this really quick. I have this eraser, but I can't sharpen it because it's got this tape stuck on it. Let's hope I don't cut myself. I'm not allowed to play with razor blades normally. I'm really good at a lot of things, including cutting myself. How do I, let's see. I saw chalk pastels at Staples today. Would they be okay for a rough sketch pre-painting drawing? I don't see why not. Looks like I'm still streaming, but we are, yeah, there we go. We are back. I mean, anything, as long as you're not selling the work, you don't have to worry about, like, archival qualities, how good it is. Wow, this is like, does not want to come off at all. It's quite attached to this pencil. Do I recommend any desk lamps? My eyes get tired from the yellow lighting in my room. So the yellow lighting isn't accurate anyway. You want to go with like a daylight bulb. My favorite right now, I think I've got it over on my supply list on my website. If I don't, I need to. But it's a clamp light. I got it from Amazon. I don't know if I have it in the description of today's supplies. But it was about $55, $54, something like that. And it clamps, the one that I got clamps onto my, this is really annoying. That's coming off in a million little pieces. And I can't sharpen the pencil till I get these off. But it's, that has been nice, but you want to go with a daylight. You don't want that warm light. And I love warm light. Like around my apartment, I only like warm light. I hate cool blue lights. But when you're working, you want to go with a daylight. Something that's, not the warm yellow will strain your eyes. Yeah, what Kim said. Yellow cast is too tiring, especially at night. Exactly. Like I love it around my apartment. I think it's beautiful. I love the warmth of it, but well, if I read my books that are backlit anyway. I'm a huge fan of digital stuff. I don't have storage for normal books, but yeah, you don't want to go with those. Lee Fiddler said, in general, are oil-based pencils transparent and wax-based or opaque? Yeah, usually wax are going to be more opaque than your oil-based, usually. But I mean, well, I guess they'd still be translucent, so yeah, we'll just go with yes. About the watercolor piece you mentioned earlier, this is from Dog Lover, said you should totally use the cold press paper. It's so much fun. Also embrace the unpredictable. Oh, exactly. Yeah. I just have to decide which sounds like more fun to me. That one, or I've got another pad of watercolor paper from Fabriano I've never used. I didn't even realize I had it. I was looking for something else and found that last night. Because, you know, me and losing something. I lost something else. Found it. I never find what I need when I need it, though. But anyway, that one I want to try too. So I've got a couple of options there. Let's see. Joseph Incham said, is the Daylight Duo LED Art and Craft lamp with clamp? That sounds like the right one. I'm not positive, but it sounds like it. Let's see. Lee Fiddler said, our oil... Okay, I answered that one. Jody said, do you prefer colored pencil over pastel and why? Yes, I hate, personally, pastels. I love how they look. It's not an issue of the end result. I don't like working in them because... Okay, there's a line. There's the line I wanted. Oh, the other thing with this paper, look at how nicely that just erased. I had a dark black line that I didn't like. I just took my ink eraser and just a little bit and it lifted. I'm loving this paper, seriously, for the way that I feel like I need to preface every time I say that, for the way that I work with colored pencil, because I definitely am not going to like it for Inktense or watercolor. Let's see. But pastels are just, for me, they're too messy. I don't like, I'm very neurotic when it comes to things being clean. I can do clutter as long as it's organized clutter. I can do like anything. Last week after I airbrushed, I had to go and redust my whole studio because knowing there was dust, I couldn't see it, but I knew there was airbrush dust. It weirds me out. So things that are messy are not going to be my favorite supplies, and pastels can be very, very messy. They're just not my preference. Now, the end result, the work created with them are beautiful. So I do like that. The other thing I don't love about pastels is I feel like no matter what I do, it will always just smudge. I mean, it never feels, for this, nothing's coming off. That always does. Now, powder blender, it'll come off a little bit if you rub it with your hand, even after you seal it, but not bad. Not to the extent that pastels will. And pastels, if you talk to a framer, they'll tell you the same. It doesn't matter how well you spray them. You'll frame and mat them, and over time, at the bottom of the mat, little bits of dust will start collecting from the pastel that falls off, even when it's sprayed really well. So that's something that I've never loved about pastels too. Again, personal, it's not that they can't create beautiful work. They absolutely can. But those are why they're not my preference. Do I listen to audiobooks when I'm arting? If so, what genre is my favorite? Absolutely, and fantasy. Usually fantasy, anything really like that I really, really like. Let's see, I just finished, well, actually, I re-listened, and this sounds, it's an adult book. There's some very adult scenes, but overall, the majority of it is just hilarious. I'm not really into romance, but this one is so funny. It's How to Flirt with a Naked Werewolf by Molly Harper, and the audio version, the narrator, that combined with the writing, it is genius. It is hilarious, so much fun, but there are some very adult scenes, so I need to throw that out there. There were maybe 2 adult scenes, so not over the top like on some books where I'm like, oh my god, I'm having to skip through half the book to get through this, but there were a few, so I feel like I should just throw that out there. But that one I listened to, that's really good. There's a series that I actually totally forgot about because it's one of my favorites, and I hadn't listened to it in so long. It's Daughter of Smoke and Bones. Don't remember who I'm looking for my phone because it's on there. They're having a sale on Audible right now for, and no, this is not a promo. I don't actually have an Audible affiliate account. I think Colored Pencil Podcast does. I don't personally, but they have a, they're having to sell, so it's $5 for a lot, like the first in a series. And The Daughter of Smoke and Bones, there are 3 books, and the first one's on sale for $5. You can give it a try. It's got my favorite narrator, Christine Bam, so that's an added bonus. She can make even a terrible book. I've listened to her do it. She can make you not realize how terrible it is because she's such a good voice actress. But this one is actually an amazing, amazing story. So strongly recommend that one. But I haven't listened to that in a few years, so I'm probably going to start that one. I just finished the Naked Werewolf one by Molly Harper. Actually, I'm listening to another of Molly Harper. She has a whole series of vampire and werewolf ones that are just, they're comedies. So it's not like a typical romance. They're just funny. Let's see. On the top, Troy said, on the topic of pastels, have you ever tried pan pastels? I have. Still not for me for the same reason. They're still, even if you're not getting it on your hands, it's still too messy for me. I just don't like them. Green Gables Art wants to know what an ink eraser is. These ones are by Faber-Castell. Mine are green. They came, Conejo actually sent me a bunch of these from Mexico. They're, it's by Faber-Castell, but it's got a rougher eraser tip on it than a typical eraser would. Now, if you get it from the UK or from the US, they're going to have a cream color outside thing, and just look for a Faber-Castell ink eraser. They're wonderful. Some of the ones from the US and UK have like a little brush on the end, which to me is kind of a waste, but it works. Yes, Jessica's art said it's Lainey Taylor. Am I saying that right? Lainey Taylor is the author of The Daughter in Smoke and Bones. So good. Am I an art historian as well? Absolutely not. Okay, so back to what I was doing. I guess I don't need the eraser in my hand now. So see, just the edges, a lot of cleaning things up. So it's not, and this is why you don't typically see them in my videos, because it's not like, I'm not necessarily making noticeable changes, but it all adds up in the end. So here, I'm going to clean up this edge. 2 parts. One, I'll clean the edge up with a pencil on the branch, and then the other is to pull that feather down a little bit lower. You want to make sure everything's nice and crisp. I mean, that's one of the benefits, one of the things I like so much about colored pencil. You've got so much control of the little details. So make sure you don't slop out on stuff and end up with these sloppy edges. Just get those nice and crisp. I mean, fuzzy, if it's supposed to be fuzzy, great. But fuzzy because you were lazy, not so great. And see the black that I'm doing here, there's so much pigment under. I'm not even going to have to blend that with OMS. Yeah, Patty Picasso wants to know where Conejo is. I think he got another job. I think he said that he was going to be busy working. He emailed me and I was busy and I haven't gotten back to him. Typical. I'm really bad about getting back to emails in general. I'm a jerk like that. I'm trying to think of a few other books that are really good too. But that was when I was really excited to see I must have had a hard copy or something. I didn't have The Daughter of Smoke and Bones on my Audible, so I got that again 2 nights ago. But it's one of those books that is like, it is just so beautifully written. It goes back and forth for reasons that they'll explain later on, but it goes back and forth, past to present, and the way that it's done, it's beautiful. Like, I can't think of any other way to word it than it is beautiful. I've never read a book and thought, this is beautiful. Like, that was so good. Can't say enough good about those ones. Have I read The Dark Crowns? Loved it. Why does that sound 3 Dark Crowns? I don't remember. What's that one about? I've read so many books. I forget half of them, and then like The Daughters in Smoke and Ash or Smoke and Bones. If I had remembered how, I completely forgot about that book, and it's one of my favorites because I would have told you guys about that one a long time before. I always forget about them, so I have to be reminded what they're about. JPC 13 Art said Laney, whatever, Taylor came out with a new book last year called Strange the Dreamer Witch. Here is better than Daughter in Smoke and Bones. Is it a series or is it the first in a series? If it's the first in a series, I'll probably wait till they're all done. I get obsessive and I want to listen to them all at once. But I'm glad to hear she did another. You can see here just cleaning up edges. I actually need to get a bunch of shadows and just sharpen. Actually, I need some purple too. I need to sharpen this, get some, where is my purple? That was a pencil all night, not last night, I think the night before. That purple pencil, it's a luminance, and I don't know why I could not keep track of it. One of the things that I hate that pencil companies do, like, I love Faber-Castell. I can easily see, okay, there's my blue. But when I look at a stack of a bunch of pencils like this and they're all stacked up, that all looks the same to me. Like, cover the pencil, make it all obvious. Even Derwent, I have that problem with a lot of theirs because it's just the ends. I wish that all companies would color like the entire pencil. Prismacolor, I like how they do it. I like how Polychromos does it. I do not like this. The Caran d'Ache, their Pablos are the full pencil is colored. I like that so much better than this. I can't find, and that's why I keep losing the purple one, because I can't easily see just by, like, at a glance. It's so hard to find looking at the tips when you have this many pencils pulled out. Oh, there it is. See, technically, and then I throw it. Ah, crap. Where did it go? And I've got a bunch of paintbrushes under my easel. This is going to be a challenge. Let's see. Oh, good. It fell on the floor in front. Not as bad as I thought it would be. We said that book was the queens are born to eventually kill each other so the survivor becomes queen. No, I have not read that one. Does it have a happy-ish ending? Because I don't like sad. Like, if it makes me sad, I don't want to read it. Or if it's remotely depressing, I don't want to. Ooh! Oh my gosh, seriously, stop dropping pencils. JPC13 said that, Art said that he's pretty sure it's a standalone series, the one by Lanny. Okay, or standalone, not a series. I'm going to have to look into that. Thank you for suggesting that. Okay, I'm on the third book in a 5 series of Lockwood and Company by Jonathan Stroud of the Bartimus series, which has a great dialogue and snarky humor. Oh, I may have to look into that one too. It's funny, I don't read many that are, you know, really funny or comedy type, even though it seems like those are one of my favorites. I need to look into more like that. Like when I was listening to the How to Flirt with a Naked Werewolf one, I was laughing so hard. I'm like, why do I not look for more books like this? Like, this can't be the only author who is that funny. And it was really enjoyable. Like, it made me sit at the easel. I got so much work done last night because of listening to that. So the color that I need, I don't really have a good colored pencil color that's this bluish purple, so I'm just layering the two, mix them. And see, now as I start darkening the feathers behind this branch, that branch starts to show up a little bit better, even though I'll still have to put the white on top later on. I think I will use a bit of OMS. My small brush. I have a little one that I've been using to blend. My desk has not been, or like my workbench area has not been this much of an absolute disaster in so long. Like it's got, I don't normally have this many pencils pulled out. But I was apparently having too much fun and now I'm paying for it. Because it is a hot mess. No. That brush will work. So what I do, I pretty much always, like, I'll dip my brush in my paint, my OMS, but I always dab it first on a paper towel. Well, first, actually, that's a little dirty, so I need to clean that brush anyway. But sometimes it'll be stained from the pencil I used previously, so I want to wipe that off anyway. But I don't want to just have a glob of paint there because it lifts too much instead of blending. And I'm going to move the brush in the direction that I want any possible streaks to go in. Like, I want there to be feathers going this way. I don't want to blend this way because that would be streaks the wrong direction if I end up with streaks. And I'm blending basically anywhere where I ended up with kind of a gritty, grainy look. That's where I'm blending out. If there was no gritty, grainy look, then I don't need to blend. It's just fine how it is. Again, I want to make sure that edge is nice and smooth. Okay. And just a good habit to get in when you are using OMS, put the lid back on your container when you're not using it. You don't need to sit there. I mean, even though it's odorless, you still don't want to sit there inhaling it. So I always, you know, use it as you need to, and then put your lid back on and put that to the side. Just good habits to get into. Honesty wants to know if I'm discontinuing time-lapse tutorials. No, I'm not. I just haven't done one. I'm going to be doing one. I actually have to record the intro and then edit. Hopefully this weekend I need to get the octopus done. And then I need to, or the painting is done, but I need to do the actual video. And then this will be probably the following week. So no, I'll still do them. I just have been behind. That octopus painting took longer than I planned on, and so I just haven't had anything in between. But I plan to do a lot more. I also plan to do, one of the things I want to do more of this year are a few more beginning type videos, just getting people started, like like I did the first time working in Powder Blender. I want to do another one, your first colored pencil project like this, or your first time working in acrylics, or first project that kind of walks you through step by step if you've never used that medium before. So I have those coming. But no, I'm going to definitely have normal time lapse too. Not discontinuing that at all. Jessica said I should try the Throne of Glass, and I have not tried those, but the Court of Thorns and Roses, I'm pretty sure I read those. Didn't like them, honestly. I didn't care for a single character. Like, any one of those characters, the main characters could have died. I couldn't have cared any less. They were so, like, I didn't even finish the last book. I got bored. I was like, I just don't care what happens. I don't know. I don't like that when you can't, I don't know what the deal was. Like, her sisters in that book irritated me. I was okay. I was hoping one of them would be killed so I didn't have to listen to them anymore. I'm a horrible person. It's a book. They're not real people, so it's okay, right? But no, I never got it. Like, I should have loved that book because I love anything to do with Fae. I like that sort of thing. That book never... The first book was, I kind of liked, and the further I got into more each additional book, it was just like, no, not doing it for me. So I'm going to use the white here just to add highlights. I'm not pushing too hard. But I do need to make these little toes stand out a bit. Now, and I can't, other than that I just didn't connect with any single character in those books. I can't tell you why I didn't like them. Like, they're not badly written. There's just something about them that I just didn't care what happened to any of the characters, which is an odd thing. Esme said that she is interested in starting oils. Would I say using canvas paper with acrylic primer is okay, or do I need a different type of canvas? Canvas pads, those are fine. Those will be okay for you. You'll want to tape them down because with oils, it's going to be wet. Like with this, it's dry. I can grab onto the side of it. I can move it around. It's okay. With oils, I like to work on canvas because you're basically, we'll use this little box as an example. This is very similar to what a canvas would be. So if the front is wet, I can hold it by its sides without getting, picking it up and touching the front. If it's a flat piece of paper, it's hard to move without getting oil paint all over your hands or messing up the painting. So if it's a flat piece of paper, what I recommend doing is take tape, and like I've got here, tape it to another board where you can grip to the board when you want to move things around. That way you don't end up with paint all over, but the canvas pads work fine as long as they're gessoed. Also, this has nothing to do with the art, but I was looking for something else earlier and came up with these. Look how cute these are. Get these. There's a girl, if you can follow her, Warren Key's Emporium. She makes these little, like, how cute are these? It's a little key that she made with wings. She does a lot of, like, Harry Potter themed things. But these are just keys with wings, and they're so pretty the way they catch the light. And I thought I'd just show those to you because they're here. I don't have a link for it. You just have to look up Warren Key's Emporium. She's hard to get. Like, she's super popular. So when she lists stuff within, like, here's the other one in this set. When she lists stuff for sale over on Etsy, they sell out within a few minutes. But, so I always said, anytime I want to buy something from her, I have to set an alarm. And her prices are really cheap, too. Like, I don't know, $8 for some of these. I think this one was like an $8 one. So, I'm going to make one of those. You know those things that you see with, what are they? Bug things where they've got, like, butterflies on display. I'm going to do a shadow box like that, but with the key butterflies. I have some hanging back here I bought, but I don't like how they look back there. So I'm going to change that around. Anyway, that had nothing to do with today's video. It was just sitting next to here, and I thought, oh, show and tell. Let's show you guys my cool, like, one of my favorite things ever. Okay. Gail said, I never use OMS around my bird just in case it's toxic. Yes, never, never, never use it around your bird. Good call there. That's why I can't bring chicken in here unless, I mean, it airs out quick, but while I'm working, no, he doesn't come in here. I'm not even chancing that. Let's see, Max said, I am trying oil painting. When I search in my local store, I can't find liquid. They offer linseed oil and cobalt drying as medium. What do you think about these products? They dry, well, I don't know what the cobalt drying as a medium, I'm not sure what that is, but linseed oil, I know, that's what I used to use. It works, you just have a longer dry time. It works just fine. So that was my main complaint with those, it's just it takes so long to dry. So you may want to check online and see if you can find it. Where did I put the pencils I was just using? I need to stop setting stuff down. And JVC13 Art said, it hurt to hear you say you didn't like a Court of Thorns and Roses, but I know you'll love Six of Crows. All the characters in that series are generally written? They're generally written? Is that what you meant to say? Generally written sounds boring. Yeah, I don't know. I just didn't... I wanted to like it. I expected to like it. I expected it to be one of those books I'd listen to over and over. It just wasn't. Like, enough so that I couldn't bring myself to finish it. I might when the next one comes out, but we'll see. It's funny with those books too. I read them. I don't know how I missed the second book and I jumped to the third and it didn't make sense. And I was so confused and I thought that's why I didn't like it. So once I figured it out, I went back and re-listened to the second one. I still didn't like it. Or the third. One of them I did out of order. I don't like it anyway. Link for the Dragonfly. I don't have a link. Look up Warren Keys Emporium on, let's see, on Etsy. Actually, if you look her up on, or if you go to my Instagram, she usually comments on a lot of, I know she's commented on a few of mine. It's a long name. You can find her, just type in Warren Keys Emporium, because she comments sometimes now on some of my posts. So you might be able to find her that way. I don't actually know her other than making purchases from her. So I'm not like trying to shove one of my personal friends into your faces. It's just something I like. Let me see. How's my art assistant doing? She's doing good. Her face, the swelling was almost completely gone that night. By the next day, or actually within 2 days, you couldn't, like, even I couldn't tell any difference. So she's still taking her antibiotics. She goes in about a week for a recheck. And then if everything looks good there, she can get her dental. She needs dental work, which is apparently what caused the whole problem. So we'll get her all fixed up. But she's doing absolutely wonderful right now. She is not happy about having to go outside to go to the bathroom in the cold rain. That's been a bit of a challenge. That dog today, okay, plug your ears, because if you're grossed out by stuff, or you don't have animals, and so many of us with animals are used to this, I'm taking her down the stairs to go potty this morning. It's her first time out for the day, and it was pouring. She got to the stage where she saw how heavy it was raining. She decided the stairs, it's outdoor and it's wet, so I mean it's not like she did this indoors, but she decided to just, I'm going to squat here on the stairs and go instead of going, if you know, the rest of the way down into the grass. I don't know what goes through that dog's mind sometimes. She hates water. She hates the rain. I've never had her use the stairs on the way down though. That was new and lovely. Let's see. Jacqueline says that the cobalt dryers used to speed up the drying time in oil paints. You don't need very much, a few drops in the paint or medium. I use it sometimes if I'm using wet. That's cool to know. Yeah, Phyllis said, the entire piece is beautiful. Thank you. But it's amazing how much the final detail brings out everything. Exactly. Like, that's what you want to notice here are these little things that seem like they're not a big deal, but they all add up and make a huge change. Like, they seem so unimportant, but they really do. Cleaning up your edges, spending a little bit more time. One of the things that I like to do, where's my black? There it is. One of the things that I like to do is when I finish a piece or I think I'm done, I then go back, like give it a day, give it 2 days, whatever, and then go back and tell yourself, okay, I'm going to spend 2 more hours working on this. Just cleaning things up, catching things that you didn't notice because you sat in front of it for too long, too many hours, you'll stop noticing little things. So if I can just, you know, give myself a break and then come back to it a day or 2 later, but make myself just spend a couple hours on final details. Nothing, and I usually, those couple hours, like I was saying before, I don't typically record them because you can't really see. And when I'm working live right now, you can kind of see because we're chatting anyway. But like if I did that in a video, even in real time in a video, you'd probably lose interest. Like, what in the world? These are such little minor things, but they really do add up. Whoops, this shadow can come a little further up. It's so easy to call your work done. And like I see this all the time when people submit stuff for critiques. It's not that the work is at all bad. It's just not finished. We have a tendency to call our work finished too soon. And I'm sure, I mean, I do it myself too. It's not like I'm perfect in that case, that situation. Sometimes you just get sick of things and don't want to finish it, or keep working on it. But try to give yourself a little bit more time. It will make a big difference. As I said, is that what Liquid does? Speed up drying time? Yeah, Liquid, it's my mixing medium. So like instead of using linseed oil, I would use Liquid and it'll dry overnight instead of in 2 weeks. Kirsty says, I know you use Fisher 400 for brush and pencil, but do you know which grit UArt is similar? For UArt, I use 500. Fisher 400 is really hard to get in Australia. You try the 500, UArt, I like that. I've known of people who went up to like 1200, got like super, super fine grit. 500 worked just fine for me. Like if I couldn't get Fisher 400, that would be my choice. And it's not like, oh, it's not as good or it's secondary to Fisher 400. I like the Fisher 400, but I think I would be perfectly happy with just UArt too in that case. It really did work well. And which is funny because the batch I had was defective and it still worked just fine. They replaced it. I've got a better one now, but now I use my defective batch when I want to do like a quick demonstration, but I'm not going to finish the piece. Another thing you want to notice, it's easy to look, let's say at a bird and go, okay, his toes are gray, and just make them solid gray. Well, where are the shadows? Where there's tints of blue in here. I've got a little bit of a reddish brown in there. Look for those little details too, because that makes a big difference in the end piece. The other thing here, I really need to make sure this edge is really crisp. I'm going to push harder with my pencil. I don't feel like it's crisp enough. Lady Marigold asked, what size picture do I like most often with colored pencils? 11 by 14 is probably my favorite. Not too big, not too small. I mean, it's big enough I can get the detail I want without being so big that it's going to take me a month to finish. So again, make sure this line is nice. And actually part of this fades and isn't a sharp, sharp line between the shadow of the feathers and the branch, but I still want it to be clean. And I'm going to blend that. Instead of blending with OMS, I'm going to blend by burnishing. I mean, when I get to these final layers, you guys hear me talk about don't push too hard because you don't want to damage the tooth of your paper. When I get to the final layers, I'm okay with damaging the tooth of the paper. It's normal for me to just go ahead and burnish and push hard, so I'm blending with that, but only for your final layers. I know I can't go on top of that now and have much stick to it. It'll stick a little, but not that much. So I want to be careful not to push too hard too early on, but those final layers, if that's how you want to blend, go for it. Just be aware you're not going to get many layers on top. Now, of course, I can always take my touch-up texture, this, and paint over an area and add tooth back to it. That actually does work pretty well. Even on this, even it's for, you know, powder blender and sandpaper, but I've used it on paper like this and it worked fine too. Yeah, Marlene said, or Marilyn, sorry, said she found it. It's Warren Keys Emporium. So yeah, WORNKEYSEMPORIUM. I shouldn't tell you guys because now I've got more competition when I want to buy more of her products. Like, they're so reasonably priced that I want to collect. Like, I love collecting things anyway, so yeah, now look, I've just created more competition for myself. Good thing I've actually got a ton of them. Maybe not a ton. I have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, because I have 3 more coming, I think, so 8 keys. I've been collecting them for a few months. Like, and she doesn't list that often, so you want to watch her on social media, so when she does list a bunch of them, you can be notified before. She'll usually let you know a day or two before. So I usually set an alarm, because I'm that big of a nerd, on my phone to remind me to go over to Etsy when they go live. The last time they went live, my internet started to go out, or my 4G, my husband was driving, we were out doing errands, and it decided to go out, and so, yeah, that was frustrating, because they sell so quickly. I don't have time for my Wi-Fi to be, or not Wi-Fi, my 4G to be going out. 5G, 4G, whatever they are now. Get some more detail in here. Actually, we had one up here. I'm gonna put a few little knots in the wood up here too, a little bit more detailing. Now some of this I'm starting, I don't know if you can see that on the video, or on this camera, I don't think it's strong enough, but there's little dots in there where it's not blended that well. So that I will definitely go through. It's got that slight gritty look. I'll go through with the OMS for some of that. Like, if I'm getting a gritty, grainy look, and that's the reason I feel like I need to blend, I don't like to burnish then. Then I like to use the OMS. The burnishing I do when I'm just blending 2 colors for a final layer where it's already smooth underneath. Okay, let's see. Let me get some more of a reddish brown in there. One of my Derwent drawings is really nice. Plus, because it's a Derwent drawing pencil, these are really, really soft, really opaque. I always break the tips, though, so I have to be careful not to push too hard. But they're really opaque. So again, here's another area with that branch you would look at and go, okay, it was done. Why are you messing with it? But it's not. Just keep messing with it and it'll look so much better. Spend a little bit more time on your work than you think you need to. One of the things that I missed, they put me in an AP studio art class when I was a senior in high school. Like, I just had to show them some of my previous drawings, and they put me in there, and it wasn't one where they taught you anything. They would just give you an assignment, and they gave us, that's where I got my first set of Prismacolors, but they would give you, like, okay, you're going to use colored pencils and your assignment is transparency. So where everyone else is drawing jars, I made transparent tigers, because why be normal? So anyway, the thing that I missed about that when I graduated high school, I loved that I could go up to that teacher, and his name was Mr. Garcia, and tell him, I'm finished. And he would say, no, you're not. Go back and work at it. And my work would be so much better in the end because of how many times he would tell me. Like, I knew when I went up to him, he was always going to tell me, no, it's not done. But I definitely missed that when I graduated high school and I was on my own then to figure out if I was done or not. But as a general rule for myself, I think for too long after high school, I stuck with close enough. It took me a few years before I got to the point where, like, my rule is spend more time. Whenever you think you're done, go spend another couple hours on it. And that has really done well for me. Art by Dana said, you probably answered this question, but how do you know when you are finished? Oh, okay. That was good. I just answered that. Let's see. Now that you've Donna said, now that you've tested the Fabriano Artistico X-Rite hot press 140-pound watercolor name needs a shorter name. You even wrote that. Are you seeing that there's a difference in their new batch? I am, but I already talked about that so extensively that I'm going to have you just back up this video because there is, but if you don't want to do that, this video will probably be up in a week or two, and I'm going to go cover all of that. But yeah, there are definitely changes, but they're not all bad. There's some bad, but not all. Kirsty said, when you do graphite work, do you varnish or seal them? What product do you use for them? I find a lot of them stain the paper darker, etc. It's not uncommon for them to go a little bit darker. I almost always like it. I think it looks better, but there's a matte finish. I want to say it's Krylon that I'm using, but I want to try some other ones because it's not supposed to be one of the best. I mean, it works, but I do want to try some other ones. So I can't tell you, but yes, I do spray mine. I usually just use that matte finish by Krylon. So again, here, I need to make sure this lilac, see how I have a highlight of blue? That doesn't look right. So I'm just going to take the black and I'll blend this out with OMS. I don't like that line. It's almost like I didn't pull the feathers all the way up to the branch when I was shading. So let's blend some of this out. So for final layers, I do not use as much odorless mineral spirits as I do on the beginning layers. At this point, there's so much pigment on the paper. If I use very much odorless mineral spirits, like if it's super saturated, I end up lifting more off than I intend to. So this is that area I was talking about that had a little bit of that, the white of the paper was showing through. So I'm going to blend that. I'm definitely finding I have to adjust my techniques, even though I say I like it better than what it was, at least for this method of working. As far as the new batch of paper, I still do have to adjust my techniques a bit, like knowing I'm not going to put as many layers or just little things like that. The way that I move the brush, because it seems like the pigment moves a little bit more. So I have had to adjust a few things. Not that that alone makes it better or worse. There are just some things that I'm having to adjust for. But I do think long term, most of those I will like. So there's a corner right here, which I might be able to do it. The branch and the background don't quite meet. So what I'm going to end up doing is taking a color that's very close to the background and pulling that up. Like these are the little things that you're watching for those last 2 hours where you're like, I'm just going to catch these little details. Those are the type of things that you're looking for that you didn't notice when you were working on the whole thing, where you were kind of focused on everything at once. Flakes of Snow wants to know if I am finishing this tonight. Hopefully, not on the live stream because I've still got these branches over here to do. I'd like to get most of this done. After the live stream, I'll probably take a break and then scratch my nose. Why does it itch so much? See, this is what I get for leaving the window a little bit open. It's actually cold outside, but this room gets really, really hot if the heater is on enough to heat the living room, and the rest of this room just always gets hot. So I have the window cracked with things coming in bloom. Oh, this is going to be a challenge for future live streams. I don't notice how much I scratch my nose until I'm doing a live stream and I'm trying not to scratch it. Like, maybe it itches all the time and I don't notice, or if it's, I'm not sure if it's that or if it's that I'm trying not to that's making me want to scratch more. Do they still make Spray Fix? I don't know. I am not sure because I'm not sure of that name. Okay, I picked up this pencil for something. What was I going to do with the blue? I mean, I can find stuff, but there was something specific. Huh. We'll come back to that. Let's pick a new spot. Okay, so back to the toes. Those blended, so I'm going to let that dry a little bit. And I'm going to, actually, I'm going to let this whole section dry, and I'm going to go ahead and start working a little bit further down into this one. So I just worked my way down. Oh, I need these pencils. This branch is really, really bright, the way the light is hitting it on my photo. Brighten that up a little bit more. Elise Wong Creation said, with so many paintings you do, have you ever had a space problem? Absolutely. I have a space problem with everything because everywhere I've lived has always been on the smaller side. I've never had a garage. I've never had, or there were times I lived with my in-laws, but it still wasn't even my garage then. But I mean, I've never had a lot of storage space. I'm looking around like there's no closet in this room. The only closet is there's a bathroom, a master bathroom is attached to the studio, and it's got a walk-in closet, but it's all my clothes. I do have some art supplies. I have some easels in there and a few other things, but yeah, space is a problem all around. I've got some paintings in there. Most of my paintings are here or on walls. Yes, space is a serious issue. It's one of the things that I like so much about working with colored pencil. They don't take up much room until I frame them, but that's definitely a challenge for me. It's one of the things that I'm really looking, that and having a yard where I can plant lots and lots of plants. Those are the things I'm looking forward to most about having a bigger house or having an actual buying a house someday, because all of my apartments did not have much space. My first apartment, it wasn't as bad because I didn't have as many paintings back then. I'd only been painting for a bit. So most of the paintings I had room just to hang on my own walls. Or my parents have a ton of my old paintings on their walls and in closets and everywhere else. But now I paint so much, it is definitely an issue for me. I should probably make more of an effort to sell some of those originals. Have I tried the brush and pencil final fixative for graphite? I have not. I don't think I would, because that product has a tendency to spit a little bit. For the colored pencil work, it's fine. I can hide it. No big deal if it does. But on pencil, it would not be my choice. Not because there's something wrong with the product, just it's not what it's meant for. So it's not one that I'm going to use. Courtney Hurt said, I think the blue was way too close to the gap between the bird and the background. No, that's green. So that didn't make sense either. Actually, that's probably dry enough. I can go ahead and fill that in. It's one thing I like when I work with the airbrush. You can pretty much hide where a colored pencil versus the airbrush. You can't really tell it was one or the other. And I love that. That's one thing with mixed media I sometimes don't like that much, is I don't want you to be able to see that it's one medium changing into the next. And this really doesn't, this hides it pretty well. This toe is so weird because it looks, it just looks weird in the photo, like it's wrapped all the way around, but this should be nail starting maybe around here, and then the background came through. I have to zoom that way in. So that doesn't look right to me. I may make some alterations even from what the photo is, just because even in the photo it kind of looks a little bit weird. I don't know what is nail and what is chicken skin. So I'm going to actually pull this up. We'll make it a little bit more of a nail. Sometimes, even if it's correct, it looks wrong, and that's where, as an artist, you have to make the choice to change something. And Gail said that in the Southeast, we say an itchy nose means company's coming over. I hope not. It's almost 10 at night. Do you have more... Esme asked if I have more art supplies or clothes and shoes combined. Close, but art supplies. So I grew up pretty poor. And I didn't have a lot of clothes. Like, I don't regret the way I grew up. I mean, I was happy. I had what I needed, but not what I wanted. Like, my friends had, I remember that's actually what got me into taking drawing more seriously. My friends would get these posters of like cool tigers and dolphins, and they'd be all over their walls. I didn't have money for that. So if I wanted my walls decorated, and I hate blank walls, maybe that's why, like, I've always hate blank walls. I would draw birds, were my big thing that I was drawing at the time, birds and horses, but birds were what I started like drawing a ton of, and I had them all over my walls. I had cheap chalkboard chalk, so like that kind of pastel color that I would draw them with and try to get them as close as possible, but that's what I covered my walls with. And even back then, so there was the art side of it, but the other side is my clothes mostly were hand-me-downs. I didn't have a lot of brand new clothes. Most of them I got from friends who gave them to me, or my cousins. Lots of hand-me-downs from cousins. So, you know, we're sewing stuff back up, and I'd have one pair of shoes and then one pair of dress shoes, which I wasn't allowed to wear to school, but one pair of like tennis shoes that I wore all the time. And even as an adult, I mean, you do the starving artist thing when you're starting out, and I didn't have a lot of money at all. And so over the years, I've always taken very, very good care of what I have. I mean, I have clothes that I've had since 2000, because I'm really like, I couldn't buy more, so I took very good care of them. And then as an adult, that would be what my family or friends would get me, or would be like gift certificate to clothing stores. And same thing, I would be like, if I had spending money, I bought clothes or shoes. Well, then now I buy a lot of, like, I've gotten so many boots, because I used to get frustrated that I would get a cute top, but I had no shoes. Like, it was either flip-flops or tennis shoes were most of the shoes that I had. So, yeah, now I've kind of taken advantage of that, and I have lots of boots. I like to collect, like, if there is a sale, I have to buy the boots. I have not bought new shoes in a very long time, though, so I'm kind of proud of myself on that one. But, yeah, that's kind of what, if I have free spending money, what I like to spend it on is clothes and shoes. But I'm running out of room, so I had to stop buying those too. I'm making up for my childhood and young adult years. Let's see. Whoops, here we go. Rebecca said, do you consider your art to fall in the hyper-realistic type that we see on YouTube, or do you know the different techniques and your techniques? Nothing. I have never done hyper-realism. People seem to misunderstand the difference between photorealism and hyper-realism, and it's funny. I actually stopped listing my work as a descriptor as photorealistic because people misunderstood and assumed photorealistic meant hyper-realism, and they're not the same thing. Photorealism basically means I'm using a reference photo and it's close, but you can tell it's artwork. Hyper-realism, you can't tell it's artwork. There is, like, it's really hard to, you can zoom in as close as you want. You cannot tell it's artwork. That's like the easiest way I can think to describe them. And I've never done hyperrealism because, like this, let's say I put 14 hours into this. If I wanted it to be hyperrealistic, I would have to put like 100 to 120 hours into it. And that doesn't interest me. I get bored, and it's just not, that doesn't sound fun to me. It's not that I can't. I mean, if you've got the skill to do this, you have the skill to do that. It's more of a patience to put the kind of work into making that happen, and that is not my interest. I'm okay with my artwork looking like art. So that is, oops, there we go. Highlighted something I didn't mean to. Christy said, I don't know much about airbrushing, but how do you mix colors? Do you have to buy heaps of colors and layer it in, or can you mix them like acrylics? But you can mix them, and I like to have a lot, but by a lot, I mean maybe 20 or less colors, so it's not every color available. I like 10 to 15. And then you can mix it, like, let's say I need a specific orange color. Same as painting, I'm going to put mostly yellow and then maybe a drop of red and mix that until I get the color that I want. So, yes, you can mix them. Oops, scrolled too far. Jesse said, would a white water-soluble pencil be good for tracing over acrylics because the lines would disappear anyway? I can't think of a white water-soluble pencil. Like Inktense? Wouldn't stick well. And it wouldn't erase that well. I've never tried it, so let's go with that. So in theory, I don't think it'll work well, but we'll see. I don't know, white charcoal would be considered, I guess, a water-soluble pencil because that is soluble in water, and that works. So, I mean, white charcoal is what I use. So I guess technically, if you consider that a water-soluble pencil, then yes, it does work. Let's see, Patty Picasso said, in Ireland, my itchy nose means you're going to fight someone. Maybe those relatives that are calling, I never know. Most of my relatives live in California still, which is unfortunate. I want everyone to move here. But that's funny. Oops, let's scroll down a bit more. Caution artist at play said, I'm a shoe fiend. Okay, good, I'm not alone. Mine are boots. Oh, I love boots. I love boots so much. Do I have a favorite Game of Thrones character? Tyrion Lannister would probably be my favorite. And Ghost, the White Wolf. Because I like dogs better than people. Vladimir said, do you think that Mixed Media 300 series from Strathmore is a good for Prismacolor? Just started using them and I don't know if it's good. What are your thoughts? I've used it. It's okay. It's a little bit on the lightweight side, which I didn't love, but I used it for Prismacolor for many years. I used that one and their 400 series. I've used both. Again, not my first choice, but it wasn't terrible, and I learned a lot while using that, so I wouldn't say it's a bad thing. Molly said on Patreon, Octopus Painting, you mentioned that one of your studio assistants had to go to the vet. Is she okay? Yes, she is. She had an infected tooth, so she's on antibiotics and painkillers, and actually today was her first day without painkillers. She's supposed to go every other day now, but the swelling is completely gone, and she goes back for a recheck in a week and a 2 weeks. I don't know. Sometime coming up. I'll have to look at the dates, and she needs a dental, which is apparently what caused her problem. Vladimir said a super long time ago you did a mastermind session with Leonardo Pretsniak. I cannot say his name. And Mark Criley, is there one plan for the future? You know, we talked about doing it, and we've both just been busy. I haven't talked to him in a couple of months, but he talked about wanting to do it again, and just we haven't gotten around to it. So hopefully we will, but I'm not sure when. Like, we wanted to do it with different artists too. This is actually blending. One of the things I love with the Derwent Pro Color, that's what this one is, they blend so smooth. So I'm kind of using that on some of these final layers is almost to burnish, but I'm not having to actually push hard, and it's just blending things beautifully. So again, not worrying about colors, I'm worrying about my values. Are my darks dark enough? Are my edges nice and clean? Those are the things that matter to me right now. I think I'm going to pull this branch out a little bit further. It looks kind of weird where that's lining up. Gail said, I don't have an airbrush. Can the same effect be achieved with pastels? Do you have a video for it? It can. And no, I don't, because I don't work in pastels. Personally, they're not my medium. They're beautiful. I hate how they feel. Rebecca said, oh, Prismacolors are the bane of my existence. They break too much. Yeah, that's why I stopped using them. That was the main reason I stopped. You know, and I've seen beautiful artwork. I want to throw this out there. If you have Prismacolors and you're listening to this, don't feel like, oh, I've got bad pencils. No, they break a lot. They're a headache when it comes to that. They can create beautiful artwork. So don't feel like, oh, people said they're bad, so I'm not even going to draw today. Don't ever do that. Use whatever you have, and Prismacolor can make very, very beautiful paintings and drawings. So don't feel like you can't do something because you don't have what everyone else is using. I just don't like fighting with my materials, so they're not for me, but that doesn't mean they can't make pretty drawings. Just keep that in mind. Let's see, I heard you say in one of your older videos that you had a World of Warcraft character. I have a lot of characters I've played since vanilla. Me too. Do you still play? kinda. How do you balance game time with art, dog time, active time? I don't play much. I usually play like when I go to sleep, because I have a hard time if I've been painting and drawing or working on my website or anything. I have a hard time transitioning between work and sleep. So if I play Warcraft first on that in between, like even if it's for 20 minutes, that seems to help. I'll usually do some dailies. The only thing I play now, I don't raid at all anymore. I don't have time. I don't hardly even run dungeons. So there's just Warcraft will, and this is true of a lot of video games, they too easily turn into another job. Okay, but if you've got another job and then you also want to make it as an artist, Warcraft can't play into that. So I'm not saying that you can't play Warcraft. I'm just saying don't do what I did and spend too much time playing Warcraft. I mean, the amount of hours I used to waste, because back when I was playing, you could raid, or when I used to raid heavily, you could raid a 10-man and a 25-man in the same week. So that meant I was raiding 5 days a week. You know, I'd be online 8 to 10 hours. That is a full-time job. Like, how am I spending that much time on a video game? Yeah, I got good at it. Yay, I can brag I was a really good healer on World of Warcraft. Nobody cares, and that sure doesn't pay any bills. So you kind of have to keep that in mind when it comes to video games. So what I do now is, for me, I like to collect pets and mounts. I mean, that's something I'd always done when I used to play heavily. But that lets me play. It kind of lets me relax. I can chat to a few friends that I've had over the years when they're on, but I'm not putting all my time into stupid things that just don't matter. And let's be realistic, those raids don't matter. So yeah, that's how I balance the time. I had to basically stop. Or, you know, stop raiding, stop doing the bigger parts of the game. Now, luckily, you can do looking for raid and stuff, so you could kind of get a little bit of the raiding experience without having to spend the next, you know, gosh, 4 hours of your life a day raiding. So that is better than it used to be, I think, as far as that goes. But yeah, I just don't do any of the like big guild stuff, the stuff that I used to be into, I don't do anymore. Rebecca said, do you use liquid frisket to protect your whites instead of trying to layer the white pencil to get the highlights over the pencils? Not on this paper anymore. This paper does not handle, it's not liquid frisket, it's masking fluid, which is essentially the same thing. I think I have another. Yeah, I have Mask It. I haven't tried that on this. So, and actually, that is something before I make this video where the full one, the YouTube time-lapse and all of that, I think I'm going to test this and see how this handles the new batch. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it'll be a little better. I don't have high hopes seeing how, because Winsor Newton masking fluid is what I've typically used. So we'll see if this is any better. I don't have high hopes. But then again, I didn't have high hopes for this paper in the first place, and I'm liking it. So you never know. I'll give it a try and let you guys know if that worked any better. Am I going to do a starting off with Inktense video? Yes, definitely. What do I think of Holbein colored pencils? I think that they're not legal to be sold here in the US. They have not done the testing necessary, the toxicity test. They are way overpriced. And someone I trust very, very, very much, who is a full-on colored pencil expert, says they aren't really any different than polychromos. So in this case, why would I spend $350 for a set of pencils? Because they're not legal to be sold in the U.S., I can't buy them over open stock. So when my pencils run, oh my gosh, no, stop. When my pencils run out, let's say I run out of black, I now have to buy a whole set. Or, you know, let's say it's a color that's only available in the 350 set, and I really like that color. I'm going to spend a whole $350 to get that pencil replaced. That's stupid. That doesn't make any sense for those of us within the U.S. If you're in Japan where they make them and sell them, fine. Maybe they're amazing. I don't think, I've seen videos like, oh, they're the best pencil ever. They can't be. For the simple reason that you can't buy them open stock here in the US, that means they cannot possibly be ranked as one of, I wouldn't rank them as one of the best if I can't replace individual pencils. That alone is such a huge, huge deal that it doesn't make any sense. Here's the other thing, you won't test, because I know it's expensive, but you haven't done the toxicity reports to be able to sell them in the US. I don't know if I trust your Lightfast ratings either. That's just me. If they're ever available within the U.S., the price is $350 is a stupid price anyway. That is unbelievable. That's like more than luminance, by a lot. If they're available in the U.S., if they're available at a decent price, if they are available open stock, I would reconsider every single thing I just said. But they're not. Therefore, they, to me, cannot be considered the best. They just don't make sense. But again, if you live in another area where they're available to you because your country isn't requiring that testing or whatever it is, then they may be great for you. Here, they just don't make any sense. Vladimir said, I can't afford a colorless blender or really any blender. Do you have any suggestions for alternatives? It's like, okay, so here's the thing with art. For one thing, the pencils themselves you can blend with. But if you can't afford, now I don't know where you live, so it may cost a lot more here. A colorless blender here, you know, it's $2 or under, if that's what you want to use. I don't use colorless blenders much myself, although it worked good on this paper when I tested it earlier with the, where did it go? I have the one by Karen Dosh that worked nice. They're not terribly expensive. If you are in a position where you really do want a certain art supply and you can't afford it, seriously, get a part-time job for like 2 weeks, a month. And I know that may mean that month or that 2 weeks you do nothing but sleep and work. Maybe that's what you need to do to get the things that you really want to do. Trust me, I did not want to work at the animal hospital. I hated that job, not because of the animals, but because of the people. Hated that job, but it's what I needed to do in order to get the supplies that I wanted to buy. I mean, you have to sometimes make certain sacrifices. And in the case of a colorless blender, now again, I don't know where you live, so it may cost a lot more for you. That is definitely a possibility. But if you can't buy a single pencil, but that's something you really are interested in, I would say see if you can get just a part-time temporary job, just something that you're gonna work at for a month, save that money and put it towards art supplies. You don't have to do it forever, but if you know, because one of the things that people have a tendency to, and I know I do too, when you're struggling financially, especially, you get to a point where you're just like, if I get more money, if I make more money, it's got to go towards my bills. Well, hopefully whatever you're doing right now are paying your bills. I don't know one specific situation. I can only talk about for myself. I struggled. It was a real problem to try to pay any bills or buy groceries. But what I would do is if I did something extra, like I would do murals occasionally, and I would say that money goes back into the business. That money goes into something I wouldn't have otherwise bought. Camera, whatever. It goes into that. I had to kind of set that little bit of a rule first because it's too easy to put all of your money towards paying more bills, which, I mean, you've got to do. That has to be a priority. But if you can get a part-time job, the trick is not to get that part-time job and then start using that money in addition to your other money to pay for the stuff you were already paying for. It's just easy to be like, okay, I'm going to buy more expensive food now, or I don't know. I try to put the money aside and say, this is just for art supplies. But especially if it's something that you want, let's say it's just a set of pencils, it's a set of something. That part-time job, babysit. I mean, little things that you can do just a couple of times that can help you to get the supplies that you need. You may have to not be able to have time to draw for the next month so that you can buy the supplies, but it's worth doing. That's what I had to do. Let's see. Whoops. Is there any way I can share a photo of my Princess of Wales parakeet with you? Might make a great subject for you. So much color. You can post it over in our art group on Facebook. That would definitely be a good place. Let's see. What would make them toxic? We're talking about the Holbein pencils. I don't know. Lead. They have lead in their white airbrush paint. I'm glad I know that because I know how to wear a mask when I use it. But they could have lead. They could. Who knows what is in it? But if they don't tell you, like it's not that I'm opposed to using things that are toxic. I need to know that they're toxic so I can take necessary precautions. Does that mean I need to not hold a pencil in my mouth because there's something toxic in? I need to know that. So it could be anything. I don't know. Lady Marigold said, I'm trying my first sanded paper. How do you keep the details of the drawing while filling up the background layers? I don't. I add details back in later. I end up losing a lot of them, honestly. So many of them. Come on. There we go. We are reconnected. Maybe. Let's just refresh this page and see if that works out for us. Spinning. Spinning. There we go. We are back. Let's see. Yeah, Rebecca has a good thing. She said she teaches kids on Saturdays, 10 6-year-olds or 3 sometimes. That's another thing that you can do. Like as far as a part-time job to make more money for more art supplies, what about teaching kids? Teaching private lessons, teaching group lessons, things like that. Teach like a little art party type thing for kids in your neighborhood. There's so many things that you can do that you might not be thinking about. just to make that little bit of extra so that you can buy the supplies that you need. But I mean, it's easy as artists to have this idea of, I want to be an artist, so that's all I'm going to do. And for all I knew, honestly, you could be 10 years old and you can't work. I have no idea. That's something you'll have to talk to your parents about if that's the case. But you've got to kind of try to think outside the box, and what can you do to get the things that you need legally, by the way. I feel like I should throw that out there. Just try thinking of, is this the only solution? I mean, with so many things in life, we have a tendency to think, okay, I have this problem and this is the only way I can fix it, or this is the only way to work around it. And you have to think, as an artist, we're creatives. Our brains work in different ways than a lot of other people. Start thinking outside the box. Is this my only solution, or is there another is there some other route I can go to get the things that I need? So, like I said, maybe you don't want to go work at McDonald's for the next month. Maybe you want to teach little, art classes to smaller children. Maybe, you just have to start thinking outside the box and how to get to your end goal. If your end goal is buying supplies that you don't currently have the money for, how can you earn that? And teaching is a great way if you can get people signed up. If you live in the U.S., you can put ads on Craigslist. If you're trying to sell anything or services, they typically get flagged pretty quickly, but you just list them again. It's free. If you've got classes available, you could teach out of your, in the U.S., we've got so many regulations on everything with not being able to teach out of your home, teaching out of your home. If you've got a Hobby Lobby near you, you can teach out of there, and their insurance covers your teaching there. So that's a good place to go. What is my favorite painting or drawing I have ever created? Ooh, so many. I really like the hummingbirds I did with colored pencil in the airbrush background. Loved those. My flamingo that has the bees, that's an acrylic painting. It's got the gray background. Love that one. He's still on my wall. I have a few that I just really like. The underwater ones, they're one my mom stole from me. She took the one that's got the whales and the coral and the fish, and it was the first that I had done of an underwater scene in a really long time. That's definitely one of my favorites. I have a few favorites, and I think it would depend on when you ask me too. Quite often, the one that I most recently finished, I'll think is my favorite. Like, I'm more attached to them at that point. As time goes on, I usually lose a little bit of that attachment, so it's easier to sell them. Vladimir said, how come I feel whenever I try to use Prismacolor white on top of another color for a highlight, it gets mushy or muddy, not a straight white color? Because they're all going to be translucent. And it's going to mix in with the color that's on top, especially with Prismacolor, because they're very soft. That makes them blend beautifully, but it also means they're blending. So you're not going to get the true white. It just won't do it. If you need something to stay white, leave the white of the paper showing through in that area. So what I like to do is put white down first, and that way when I'm putting other color around it, it kind of protects the white of the paper a bit. Well, that's cool. Rebecca said that there's a service that sends her text messages saying people want painting lessons within a certain amount of miles, and then she would have to travel to them. Can't remember which web service. It was something on Facebook. That's interesting. Classes really, and it's funny because it was like after I stopped teaching is when more and more people are wanting to take classes. So it's definitely a good way that you can subsidize your income or make extra money. But I definitely would say if you're in a situation where you can't afford, let's say a $4 or $5 pencil, which trust me, I've been there, I get it. Then when you do decide to take on extra work so that you can buy the pencil, make sure you set money aside and say, this much money is going back to art supplies. Otherwise, I'm just working harder and not getting, working towards my goal. So that would be my tip there, is just to make sure that money this is where it's going. I'm not going to spend it on something else. Pix by Lee said, is there any kind of whale that you haven't painted drawn? Oh, I'm sure there are. I know there are. Do I have a list of all the kinds of animals I've created art of? No, I don't even have a list of the paintings I've created. Like, I've painted thousands of paintings, and it gets to the point where I don't always remember them. So every once in a while, a painting will come up, or an old thing I found on the internet where I'm like, I don't even remember that. I mean, I know it's mine, but I don't remember. Yeah, I've painted a lot, but I don't have a list or anything. Rebecca said, could we do something like mail your old art supplies we use? Can you distribute them to artists? And you know I can't. I do not have time to get involved in anything like that. And I don't drive, so I can't even get them to people. I can't get to the post office. I personally could not be involved in something like that. But it'd be cool for somebody who did have the time to do it. I love the idea. But I am definitely not the person, like I can't take on more projects. I've definitely gotten to a point where you have to learn, like, oh, I love certain ideas. And I was contacted today with somebody who had an idea for a curriculum and it was such a cool idea. And I love the idea of helping. I have to respond to them still, but it's like, I don't see how, there's no way I could do that and continue doing what I'm doing now. It would take everything to go into that project. And that's not something I'm at a place right now. I mean, maybe eventually I'll want to change what I'm doing, but right now I definitely like the YouTube thing, and you can only do so much. You know, I love the idea, but it would not be, I mean, one of you as an artist, if you've got time to do that, you can post in our group about it that you're collecting art supplies to send to people, you know, if you want to organize something like that. The problem is with anything like that, you're also going to be heavily taken advantage of. I've got more stories of people taking advantage of it than I do good stories of people who needed the supplies getting them. My friend, they have given a lot of stuff to people and they'll turn around and find it for sale on Craigslist by that same person. So that's it. Even if I had the time, I don't think I would get involved in it because there's too much scamming and too much, unless it was going to maybe a school or something like that, you could donate where you knew those teachers were going to help. It was going for the kids, going for like after school programs, like that would be amazing. Let's see. Oops. Am I going to do a first project in Inktense? Yes. I want a good brand of colored pencils. I want a good brand of colored pencils. Give me 2 brands that would be the best, please. I thought it would be Holbein colored pencils, but now I can see that that would be a big mistake. I would say, now see, it's going to depend. I think the best for you will, in part, may depend on where you're located and what's available to you. But for me, I buy them online, and my 2 favorite are, as far, because both of them are mostly light fast, are the Luminance, all of which are light fast. That's by Karen Dosh, and my Faber-Castell Polychromos are like a must-have for me, and all but I think like 2 of those in that set are light fast. The next for me would be Derwent Pro Color, but only half are, you know, just over half are light fast. So that's why those would probably be the top of my list performance-wise, but because only half are light fast, I have to drop that down a little bit. But I've actually probably got some, yeah, I've got some in my hand here. I mean, I use the Derwent Pro Color, but I only use the ones that are light fast. So that's something to keep in mind. But my Luminance at this point and my Polychromos are my top 2. And I love using them together. Yeah, Joseph, he's right. He said donate to local schools or senior centers. That's a really good one too. Senior centers. You could have like veterans. Veterans have groups, or, you know, they'll do different things. And if you can donate art supplies to them, that would be another really, really good way to go. But where you knew where those supplies are going, it's too hard when you're like, okay, if you need art supplies, go ahead and contact me. Because mostly you're going to get taken advantage of, unfortunately. Just, yay, Craigslist. Rebecca said she has time but no connections. Contact local schools, especially if they've got like after school programs where the art supplies could go there for kids who are like, here's something that they can do to keep them out of trouble, but be positive at the same time. That's one of the things that I personally really, really want to eventually do when I'm financially, you know, to that point. I would love to start some sort of school thing for kids who couldn't afford supplies on their own, couldn't afford on their own. So, wow, making things plural that shouldn't be plural, that they couldn't afford the supplies on their own, they couldn't afford classes on their own, and something that would be like an after-school type. I want to have a big warehouse thing. I wouldn't be the one teaching it, but have someone else there that helps them, you know, guides them along with just lets them use whatever art supplies that are available to them. I really want to start something like that for kids. And when I say kids, I mean anyone, little ones up through high school, anyone who really just doesn't have the means, because I mean a kid isn't going to go get a job to get art supplies, so here would be an alternative. They wouldn't be able to take them home, but they could come, you know, after school every day and come and draw and be in a safe environment. And that's really one of my, like, it's a big goal of mine to eventually set up. It's not something I have the means to do yet, but I'm hoping to eventually do something like that. And I don't know where, but I know that I want it to be something more focused around kids that don't have the funds. Like I remember being a kid and it's like, you know, I would have loved to get art supplies, but I knew my mom didn't have the money. I'm not going to bug her for stuff. She'd get me charcoals and pencils, or like chalk, not really charcoal. But that wasn't something that I was going to feel comfortable bugging my parents for, knowing they didn't have the funds for it. I would like kids to have a place that they could go for free that had everything for it. So yeah, that's one of my eventual goals. I've got to work through the details, and I definitely need to make more money there. Maybe Patreon will reach that point eventually, but it's definitely something that I think would be a really cool thing to do. Christine said, I'm sorry if you've already mentioned this, but what white are you using right now? It shows up beautifully on the dark branch. I'm not sure what I was using when you saw that, but the two that I'm using are the Derwent. This one is the Derwent Drawing Chinese White. It's really soft, but it shows up really nicely. This one is the Luminance White, also more opaque, and it shows up real well. Vladimir said, what is the main reason you would choose Luminance White over Polychromos and Prisma White? Okay, actually, I can show you that really carefully. Now, the Prisma I don't have out right now. Prisma White's okay. It breaks constantly, so that's why that one is not my ideal choice. But Polychromos White works really well on powder blender or on sanded paper. But on here, it shows up a little. Not that much. Whereas with like about the same amount of pressure, see how much more that one shows up? The Polychromos White is too translucent, so it doesn't really show up well against dark colors, except on sanded paper. It's beautiful there. Gail wants to know why I don't drive. I have fibromyalgia and I'm dizzy all the time. So it's like, I mean, yes, there are times I'm not dizzy, but it's easier just to, it would be too easy to go, okay, I'm kind of dizzy right now, but I really want to go and get a salad, because Salada, I went to recently, best place ever. Oh, their salads are so good. Anyway, it'd be easy to go, okay, I'm hungry. I'm just going to go ahead and drive myself over here. I'm going to go pick this up. I'm going to pick that up. And that seems like a bad idea. I'm just too dizzy too often. I have been doing better, so it might get to a point where I change that, but for now, that's just where I'm at. I actually should have my license, at least for emergencies. Funny, I still have my insurance, but I don't have a driver's license. I don't drive at all, but I may get my license just because if, like, my husband cut his hand open really, really bad over the summer, and had to go get stitches, and he had to drive himself, which it would have been safer for me to drive than him. He was in too much pain. He wouldn't let me call Uber. That's what I really wanted to do. But it was like 2:30 in the morning, so all my friends are asleep. There was no one to call there. So that would have been safer given the options for me to drive. So I may go ahead and get my license again. I used to have it. I used to drive, but that is the reason. Let's see. Picks by Lise. Whoops, scrolled too far. Picks by Lise said, veterans group are a great idea. We took some books and coloring pages to the soldiers and sailors' home. Seniors' home is also a good idea. Our closest has art for kids and seniors. That's cool. And what happens a lot with seniors, too, is they don't have the income. They don't have the money to spend on art supplies, so they're going to be a really good place. I mean, they'll need it. Definitely need it and use it, too. Let's see. Joseph said that the Lachri School for kids who can't art good and want to learn to do other stuff good too. That's an awesome name. I may have to write that down. Sandy said, fun question. Have you ever wondered if you could put all your projects side by side, how many square feet of this world you have colored? I never thought about that. A lot. I don't know. A lot are small, but I've done a lot of small. I don't know. It'd take up a good amount of space. Caitlin said, hey, I was wondering if there is a way to re-wet the touch-up titanium white mixture. I hate wasting it. No, just don't mix very much. You don't want to re-wet it. You don't want to add water. I've known of people who did that. As soon as you add water, no longer archival. You just ruined it. Do not try to reactivate it. Just mix small amounts. When you're done, rinse it off and mix more as needed. Good question, though. Shannon said, I like to give away unused art supplies, too, and I have found word of mouth works good. People I know will tell me about children who need supplies, and I give them away. That's perfect. Okay. Oh, Joseph said he stole it from the movie Zoolander. I've not seen that. The condensation from my cup dripped on my foot. That is cold. That was not pleasant. You guys care? Oh, that's why I'm getting even more distracted. It's 10. Yeah, I'm definitely getting tired. We'll do a little bit more and then we'll wrap up for the night. So how far can you see? You can only see to here. Okay, so I'm just looking at where the camera is so I don't work outside of the frame because, you know, that's super helpful and I'm really terrible about that. So here, I'm using the Derwent drawing again for this color because look at how well it shows up over dark. They're super, super opaque. The main drawback, they are so soft they break easier. Well, I say they break easier than Prismacolor. That's probably not true. They're softer than Prismacolor. The wood casing doesn't split. They're not breaking like crazy when I sharpen them. It's just that if you have a fine point, that point will crumble if you add a whole lot of pressure. That's just the nature of how soft it is. It's not because, like, it's Derwent. They have good quality control. I actually was doing a thing for Derwent last year with their Inktense, and one of the pencils, it was kind of chipped on. It was like indented. The wood was indented a little bit, and the paint didn't cover all the way right here. The pen, it actually worked just fine. There was nothing wrong with it, but I kind of laughed, and I showed it to them. They were mortified. The people, they just couldn't believe that happened with one of their pencils. They wanted to know what batch it came from. I mean, they were like, they took it serious. I'm like, now that is how a company should handle finding out one of their pencils was not, you know, totally perfect. Just made me respect them even more. Have I ever used tempera paint? Yeah, when I was a kid. It's chalky. It's not my preference. Okay, let's see. A little bit more detailing. Let's go with... Let me sharpen my brown a bit. So many sharpeners over here. I'm really liking this little 3 sharpener thing. I'll have to link that for you guys eventually, once I figure out what it actually is. I just opened it. I shouldn't have thrown the packaging away. I'll have to go dig that out of the trash. Luckily, it's in my art room trash, I think, so it didn't go into gross food trash. See, all these little, just teeny details, little bits. And technically, the final details I would go through. If I wasn't talking to you guys, I would go through this quite a bit faster. You don't have to spend this long to get that little amount done. But now, I don't like how this indents here. I'm going to actually go ahead and just pull that out. It just has a weird balance to me. Blend that in. Yeah, I like that better. Esme wants to know if I have a full set of the Derwent drawing or just the white. I have a full set. They actually sent it to me a long time ago, and for whatever reason, I didn't use them until I did the Margay. Was it the Margay, I believe? The one that looks really irritated. I drew him with the Derwent drawing set and the Lightfast of the Derwent Pro Color. I loved them for blending and smooth, and I don't know why. There's not a huge, let me pull out, let's see if I can slide these over, I'll show you. There's not a ton of colors, but throwing more crap on the floor. This is missing 2. There's, here, let's put it over here. There are 2 more. I have a white, well, I guess not 2. I have 1 more color, really, since apparently I have more than 1 white. There's not a ton of them, but the colors that are there, so nice, and they're fairly inexpensive. That is definitely one of my must-haves now. I mean, any one of these colors, I think there's a few more I should start pulling out. Now, this is probably sharpened too much. I'm too likely to end up breaking the tip of that. But, I mean, they're so opaque, and they blend so nicely. Have I tried the Derwent colored charcoal? You know, they sent me some. I haven't tried them yet, though. The Derwent drawing pencils are awesome. Needs more colors. Exactly. I wish there were more, because these are really, really, I mean, they're just so blendable. They're so soft. It's like my favorite parts about Prismacolor without some of my least favorite parts about Prismacolor. Yeah, they're only 24. Yeah, exactly. Actually, we can use this guy up here. Let's move my photo down a bit. When I look back, so I'm getting all of these little knots and such in here, and I'll tone some of those down, but I think I could use a few more up here. Let's just get just a few little squiggles and such, so that the wood isn't that smooth. Actually, that looks almost purple to me. I know what color would work. And then I'll blend that out. Oh, let's try this guy. Ooh, that's the color I want. Let's pull brown on top of that. I need that to fade a bit better than what I've got. There we go. Get some texture in there. See, these things, these little things, they seem like it's not a big deal, but it all really does add up. And why you want to just make yourself spend a little bit more time than you planned on. M&R, yes, I think that might be who this is. Carol Ann says, M&R makes a really good pencil sharpener. I wanted to buy their hand-cranked one, but it's been out of stock on Amazon for 4 months. Yeah, I think that's who that made this one. It's like this little 3-hole, it has different sizes, so I can do one of these makes for a really sharp or short point, which is going to be good for like my drawing that are going to be more prone to breakage. So those, or if you had Prismacolor, the shorter point is better because you're not going to break it as much. So that is definitely. Judith wants to know how I organize my pencils. I organize them by brand and then color within that brand. And yeah, I think we're about done for the night. If you guys have been painting or drawing anything, if you use on Instagram, Twitter, whatever, hashtag Lachri Live, we can all go look up and see what everybody's been drawing. Oh, and because I'm a jerk and didn't even mention this earlier, make sure to check out Joseph's channel, The Art of Joseph Fincham. He's been making more painting. He actually just did something in Inktense. So he's finally producing content again. So pretty awesome. Make sure to go head over there and subscribe to him as a thank you. If nothing, well, I say as a thank you for helping me, but you'll want to subscribe anyway because he's making some cool stuff. So, thank you guys for joining me tonight, and I don't know, let's see, Rebecca wants to know, could I afford to live on my own on the income I make? Politely, of course. Yes, now I absolutely can, which is nice because I've always, you know, that was not always the case. So yes, I have gotten to that point, which is, yay, every artist's dream, I think. And I can buy shoes now, which sounds not like that big of a deal. It's a big deal to me because I really like having shoes, which is funny because I never wear them. I barely ever leave the house and I'm always barefooted. Yet I want to collect shoes. The good news is those shoes last me freaking forever. So there's that. Let's see. Yeah, I think we are done for the night. Thanks again for joining me. And I don't know if we're going to actually be doing the watercolor next week. I might be done with it by the time the live stream is, so I don't know what next week's live stream is going to be, but we'll be here Wednesday. And then I will have the time lapse of the octopus will hopefully be up this weekend or early next week, and then the following week will be this guy. I'll finish that. Thanks again for joining me, and hope you guys are having a good time drawing, because, well, hopefully we're drawing. Well, Stacy's been watching. My friend Stacy, I know she's not drawing. So I guess not everybody is, but hopefully you have been, and please share what it was that you were drawing. I'd love to see them. I'm done rambling. Bye! I can't hit the buttons. I still can't hit the button. Okay, we're just gonna